Welcome. Today I'm welcoming Mark Guidaboni, who is one of two candidates for the one position from Kingston serving on the Silver Lake Regional School Committee. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us today.
Thank you. It's a little bit confusing with a regional school committee because there's three different towns that participate in having candidates or having people on the boards. Okay, so question number one. How do you determine your budget priorities given the mandates that you have no control over, the state funding which has not been finalized, and the limited amount of money that you actually have to spend?
Well, I think the first start is looking at the educators and the administration and the people that deal with it every day. And they have an opportunity to present to the school committee their priorities going forward. And having been on the Silver Lake School Committee now for a total of 9 years off and on, it's easy to understand where their priority is and what programs are being brought to the table. We try to make sure that we have a balance of programs that take care of all different walks of life at Silver Lake, as well as making an effort to challenge every child, which is an important part of education, that they go forward and become better adults.
Okay, so budgetarily, let's talk specifics on the budget. The school district of Silver Lake gets three different towns that participate in it. Could you just explain who those three towns are, what sort of percentage of the students and or the budget comes from the other towns?
So Kingston represents 55 and some change of the Silver Lake Regional District. And Halifax represents about 30%, and the remainder is Plymouth.
Okay.
The budget is split up that way. This particular year, the Department of Education has asked us to take our special education and shift it all around. So provided by the towns in the past, it's now going to be provided for the 7 through 12 and preschool from the Silver Lake budget for next year, which makes our budgetary challenge quite different than it was before, because now we have to make sure that we're taking into account that shift of finances from the town committees to the Silver Lake region. As far as priorities go,
can you say that again? So what is now going to be strictly on Kingston that wasn't before?
No, Silver Lake, it collectively, the three towns at the Silver Lake, the assessments, we call them, come from each town.
Right.
And those assessments are substantially increased. There's a 54% increase in Halifax, a 41% increase in Kingston, and a 31% assessment to Plymouth.
Now, what is assessment? Increase. What is assessment?
So the assessments come from the towns, and they pay the Silver Lake Regional School budget.
Okay.
And every year we vote a budget, and 2 out of the 3 towns can carry the motion to move forward with that number. So it's important to understand that, if one town may say no, but they're along for the ride here in our region of the 3 of us. So we've had some reductions in the costs of education in the 3 town budgets that would reflect, and those funds should be shifted over to the Silver Lake to cover our new special ed next year.
Right.
So, but that's a little confusing to the taxpayers, and hopefully it'll be able to be explained at the 3 town meetings.
It's very confusing to taxpayers, especially when it's in the case of Kingston, where they're paying for their elementary schools on a separate budget, really, than the Silver Lake Regional District, which is your middle school to high school.
Correct. And the preschool is now part of the Silver Lake region, because we do a regional preschool.
Is that new?
That is new. And that was changed in October, where Kingston was the last town of the 3 to approve that. And that was mandated by the state. That we run that as a regional program, because it was a regional program in the past, and we weren't running it correctly.
So preschool for all 3 towns now fall under the auspices of and the budget of the Silver Lake Regional School District. Right.
Adding about pretty close to $1 million to our budget.
And preschool, is it free now for residents?
There's a tuition-in program for certain folks, and then it's an integrated preschool. So it has special needs preschool, and it has regular students as a mix to give them the socialization they need.
And I assume that most parents would opt to participate in that versus a private preschool?
There is a good showing, a very good program. All the slots are usually filled by those
Right.
who can volunteer that we have room for.
Okay, so that's a whole new thing this year.
It is. We've been running the program, the 3 towns have, but they haven't been running it under the regional umbrella.
Okay,
And
okay.
that was a new change. Thank you.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so that's new stuff to do. All
It
right.
is.
Question number 2. What is your philosophy on special education, and what percentage of students require some additional level of support, and how is the district navigating this?
Well, special education has always been expensive for
Yeah.
those folks that have to go out of district. So our special education folks try our best to integrate the students into the regular program and keep those, not just for the expense, but for the socialization and everything else. Special education, though, as far as those within our school, our regular day program, every child has different needs. And ideally, every child would have an individual education program. in
Or an
my book.
IEP, right,
IEP.
right.
If they could. But we have to mandate, we have to do those for special learners that need the attention going forward. And we have 504 plans.
Now,
And
what is that?
That is a learning focused program, but not special education. It's outside the realm, but it identifies particular ways individuals learn.
Learn, okay.
And I personally have had a child in that situation that had some dyslexia issues and was able to compensate with a little extra time, for example, for taking tests.
Okay, so it's sort of special education, but it's not really because it's not an IEP.
Correct.
Okay.
And then special education is done by significant evaluations
Right.
to make sure that the needs of the student is met correctly at all levels.
So what percentage increase do you think, and you probably don't know this off the top of your head, from like 10 years ago to now, of students that are in some way considered to have special education needs?
Well, there was a lot of special ed identifying, especially with the recent way education was handled during the COVID crisis. And a lot of students have qualified, and a lot of students were evaluated during that period of time. And special education changes too. You know, once identified, your student may easily be accommodated to the point where they go back and be removed from that program. And some of those things are being done right now to re-identify and reevaluate our special education. We have a relatively new, over the last 7-8 months, special education director here at Silver Lake that is, I think, very, very good at looking at exactly what the needs are going to be going forward. The other big expense for special ed is transportation.
I was just going to ask you about that.
Yeah,
Talk about that.
So transportation to the special schools that special ed students have to go to is done by van pickup, and we have to coordinate better as we go forward to coordinate the transportation so that we don't have 2 vans picking up 2 kids in the same neighborhood taking them to the same place.
So where do they have to go? Like, what are the schools that they are brought to?
A lot of them are different programs. We have schools for the deaf. We have schools, and these sometimes are students that need significant input. Like I said, so they have to be accommodated with handicapped accessible vans and
So it's mandated by law that the district, once a student has been assigned a certain IEP or
a level of
service that's needed,
Right.
that the district has to accommodate that student, even if the nearest place is 40 miles away. That's the best for that student.
Correct.
Okay, and you pay not only the transportation, but you'd pay for the actual schooling.
Correct.
Okay.
And we get some state aid, significant state aid in some cases, but that state aid is identified and paid a year after
Right.
the services are rendered, which causes this budgetary issue that I identified earlier.
So so you're running on a deficit because they owe you money.
Right.
Yeah, and
So
they might owe you more money next year.
Correct. Well, last year's money went to individual town budgets.
Yeah.
And we don't have anything in Silver Lake budget, so we have to ask for more from the towns to pay that, because we don't have what they call it circuit breaker. That's the term, circuit breaker. You'll hear it used a
And
lot.
can you define that?
That's the state portion of the
Okay.
special ed paid a year later.
Okay. So special ed in itself it's a topic by itself, literally, because it requires a huge amount of logistical knowledge, laws. I mean, there's mandates, there's laws, there's things that you have to do. And then you want to, of course, support every student individually as far as you can.
Correct.
Okay. I think a lot of parents get really confused about special education. And do you think the school committee does a good job of explaining it? Or is it so complicated that it's really hard to do, special ed 101?
I think some of it's going to be easy enough to explain, but it is a cost that the towns have very little choice of accommodating. There are some ways to trim that, as I said, bringing in students in-house and running programs within the school, but that costs money to run the programs that would accommodate the school individuals. So overall, I think in next year's budget season, there are some savings that we can have based on our new special ed director has an opportunity to save some money, and she's already identified some publicly at meetings of the ability to look and reevaluate students. But on the other hand, we have issues like English as a second language. And in the last 5 years, Silver Lake School has gone from 8 students to 51 students.
That require that are not English speakers.
Correct. So they have to have a teacher provided at the right state ratio. So we are, next year, we have to, again by state mandate, bring in another professional to assist those English as a special language students. So these kind of things, they don't really, it's not special education, but there are a lot of parts of, again, making sure the services match the needs of the students. And a lot of that is state mandated. And a lot of those are unfunded state mandates sometimes that you have to work around. And
the per pupil amount that the state gives you, you don't know that you don't know that now. I mean, it's still in committee, correct?
Correct.
You won't know that until maybe September, October, November.
Right.
So how do you do a budget when you don't know how much money you're going to get?
And that's a very interesting part, too, of the equation. We have one of our members is very avid follower of the legislative action, Jason Frazier from Plimpton, and he's our legislative rep, and he keeps informed daily on the pulse of where this money's coming from, what grants are not going to be available, what grants are going to be available, and he's certainly a big asset to our region.
Excellent.
Smarter than I am.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask you another question. What are the unique challenges of a regional school committee that the voters should know about, including special committees, and how much of a time commitment is required to serve on a regional school committee?
So the regional school committee it functions, as I think we've talked about, for 7 through 12 and our integrated preschool. And then each town has their own. And then we have something called Union 31, which is when we all get to do the big group hug. And
what does that mean?
Well, we have certain issues that address all 4 committees. And those include things that involve the administration of Silver Lake Regional Schools. So we have one superintendent, and we all have to pay our share. So that meeting, and we have other professionals, other staff that are part of the administration, human resources, and those things that we all share. So each one of those budget items, every time we get to budget time, we look at how those percentage, and again, it's based on those percentages that I identified earlier. So yes, there's another meeting for that. We have, I'm the chairman of the facilities committee, which they call SFFR. It has fees and revenue and safety in there too. And that's my subcommittee that I chair. And it's very enjoyable to try to keep up with these facilities. I had an opportunity to serve on both building committees for both the Silver Lake Middle School and high school. And that was a real pleasure. But to now be involved in the committee with taking care of those buildings, I think is a real rewarding thing for me.
Oh, good.
To do that. And keeping up with it. I mean, we're looking at 10, 15-year-old buildings at this point. So,
and all the towns are facing that.
They are. But to answer your question more specifically, the regional, it requires during budget time a lot of time. During the rest of the year, pretty much, we're dealing with some policy changes and handbooks and manuals and those kind of issues. But the real power of the Silver Lake School Committee is directly and funneled through the hourglass of our superintendent. So we basically move forward, but our hiring and firing is pretty limited to the staff.
Okay.
There are a few other professionals that share both teaching and administrative roles that we do
Okay.
evaluate. But anyway, it is a complicated process.
Yeah,
it takes a while to get really understand it.
Yeah, I would think so. Okay, my fourth question to you. There are often two very different sides to subject matters that can come before the school committee. How do you navigate your personal opinions in regard to complex issues that others might not agree with?
Well, I think when you look at any issue, you have to look at where the individuals are coming from. And if it's a parent, obviously they're concerned for their student as an individual. From the staff point of view, has the staff reached out and done everything they can for that person, but they also have to spread their time and energy over a large different group of people. So I think overall, not too many of these, the administration handles issues extremely well. But there are issues that come to the school committee on a regular basis, and I think if you look at the human side of that, when the 9 of us get together, and anytime we're in executive session to discuss those things, it's pretty easy to identify, the fair way of moving forward. A lot of these issues are addressed by good communication, and if keeping in touch, which I'm proud to say that the administration is doing a much better job than it was even 6 or 8 years ago when I was on the committee last time.
And how do they communicate, and why is it so effective?
Well, they have to, the state mandates that certain things, that if you have kids involved with an incident at school or a school bus issue, or that they have to identify, and the parents have to be brought into the thing. But it's an email process, so everything's recorded. And we're copied on things that are concerned that are outside the realm of what administration should, they may need to take care of it before.
Right.
So we're sort of pre-warned that issues are coming up.
Do you set policy at all?
We do. And our policy requires us to do a reading of the policy in a public meeting, and then there's a rereading again. So there's a two.
All the policies?
All the policies as they change.
Oh, okay, as they change.
Right.
All right.
So and typically our policy manual is updated in a rolling process as things become needed. And we have an attorney that keeps an eye on that, and the state makes a change, or a court rules a particular way that would make our policy inappropriate or illegal, then they turn around and make recommendations for policy changes.
Okay.
That is a subcommittee that I don't sit on.
Okay.
But
All
we
right.
do vote as an entire committee to change policy.
Okay. Now, what about the actual amount of students that you have in the schools? Are they going down? Are they going up?
It's, well, for the preschool, up.
Of course.
Okay, the younger kids are there. The Silver Lake is fairly stable at this particular point, in spite of a lot of folks that have, addressed the different changes that population changes have made.
Yep.
As we group like myself are aging, and we don't have kids at home anymore, and then there are more folks moving in to town that are taking over, but it's a pretty much balance. We're not looking at facilities upgrades requirements for quite some time, thankfully.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that wave and bulge that's coming soon. And the superintendent's answer to the exact same question was proper, in that we haven't really studied the 3 towns' demographics and where we're going.
Yeah.
So to shoot off the hip and say, yes, it's increasing or decreasing, I think would be inappropriate until we have the
Do you have
answers.
the data? Right. Okay. And then my last question to you is, what does Silver Lake do exceedingly well, and what does Silver Lake District really need help on?
Well, I'd certainly like to start with the positive, and we may be here for quite a while, because I'm very proud to be part of Silver Lake.
Okay.
When I got on the committee last time, my goal was to try to increase AP courses, advanced placement.
Yep.
And by the time I left in 2018, we had achieved a status which is like 5% of the whole country of an AP school of distinction, which means the kids that take AP courses, we have to have a certain quantity, substantial percentage, and those kids get a 3, 4, or 5, which are the 3 top grades, and pass the test. And I was very proud of that. My 2 kids were crazy AP kids. They dove in and took 5 courses at a time, and even as parents, we said, "Are you sure you really want to do that?" They were excited about it. So I'm very proud of that. The other part is I'm on the CTE vocational program,
Yep.
and that is an outstanding program. We have 105 kids enter each class right now, and we've got a new program we're bringing in, hopefully, if we can pull the strings, a couple years it's going to take to integrate marketing in, which will allow 120 kids.
Wow.
And currently, over a third of our kids, sometimes close to a half, actually apply for these programs. It's cool to be a CTE kid. And they're on to school, Johnson and Wales from culinary. These kids are going everywhere from the program.
What does CTE stand for?
I had it. What's it? Technical ed.
Curriculum of technical ed?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Something. Yeah.
Okay. Something of technical education.
Yes,
Okay. Okay.
Right. The other program is Allied Science we brought in right before I left last time.
Yep.
I'm very excited about that. Kids go on, they're CNA certified at the end of their junior year. They go out and start in the workforce doing that, become dental assistants, dental hygienists, and doctors and nurses all the way. And it's the hard program to get into. It is packed full and very, very exciting.
Yeah,
So,
that's great.
and our CTE programs are very gender neutral.
Yeah.
So it's great. Like marketing is going to be, I think.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you can enter marketing in all different levels. You can go college,
apply
get
it
a
to-
master's
yeah,
degree, and,
yeah.
and you can just market a local business down the street.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And what is the one thing that you really think this district struggles with and really needs help?
Well, I personally think we could do better at working with the students that aren't the AP kids and aren't the CTE kids that are in the program and not special ed.
Yep.
So that subset that remains, unfortunately, when you go to budgets, is a majority.
Yeah.
And the majority sometimes gets hurt to take care of those other three groups. Well, not so much CTE, but or any of the rest.
Yeah.
So I think, but right now, I think we are meeting our kids' needs very well. And the fact that we have such a great CTE program is putting kids in a very well-rounded focus that they can go out, earn money, and a lot of them won't have college debt to worry about.
They get a lot of options.
Right.
Okay. Okay, Mark, so now I'm going to ask you to take 2 minutes to speak right into the camera and speak to the voters and tell them why they should vote for you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I've been a Silver Lake Regional School Committee member for the last, 9 years, over the last 15. And I'm currently the chair of the Facilities Subcommittee and the CTE Subcommittee. I've had the fortune to be on the building committee for both schools. Served in other boards in Kingston, the Open Space Committee, the Planning Board, Waterfront Committee for 21 years, 7 years on the Planning Board. I'm a Naval Academy graduate, class of 1980, which was the first class with women, and I'm very proud that I was part of that class. I'm a retired Navy commander, 34 years as an airline pilot, and I have time at this point to put towards bringing and spending the time to make sure there's a balance between Silver Lake and the taxpayers to make sure that we're providing the most cost-effective education going forward. So I do have the time, I have the leadership, I have the experience, and particularly the innovation to be the best one to serve the students, parents, and taxpayers of Silver Lake Region's 3 towns. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. We wish you the best of luck during this campaign and during the election season. Please do make your votes count by voting on or before May 18th for the Silver Lake Regional School Committee in the Kingston Town elections. Thank you and good day.
Thank you.